Hello and welcome to Indus News live from Islamabad. I'm Jawad Tehami and these are the headlines. The Taliban have denied a UN report that they are conducting a door-to-door search to find Afghans who worked for foreign forces. Spokesperson Sohail Shaheen says no one is under prosecution as the Taliban have granted a general amnesty and are focused on the future. Meanwhile, the White House says the US evacuated another 19,000 people from Afghanistan overnight. A Palestinian man has died of injuries sustained from Israeli gunfire at the Gaza border over the weekend. Israeli soldiers opened live fire and wounded 41 Palestinians, including a teenager, during a protest against the blockade of the Strip. Meanwhile, Palestinian factions in Gaza have called a new demonstration on the border near Khan Yunis city. Somalia's army says it has killed at least 90 Al-Shabaab terrorists in an airstrike in the central province of Galmudug. In a tweet, the army said the militants attempted to attack Amara town and suffered huge losses. Al-Shabaab claimed it has recaptured the strategic town, but the military did not confirm that. Brazil has registered nearly 900 daily deaths from COVID-19 and close to 31,000 new cases. In Pakistan, the virus claimed 141 lives and infected more than 4,000 people overnight. Globally, the fatalities toll is over 4.4 million, while the caseload has exceeded 213 million. Those were the headlines and detailed stories. Right after a short break, stay tuned. Welcome back, and now for the news in detail. The Taliban have denied a UN report that they are conducting a door-to-door search to find Afghans who worked for foreign forces. Spokesperson Sohail Shaheen says no one is under prosecution. Meanwhile, the White House says the US evacuated another 19,000 people from Afghanistan overnight. What in this report?
The fluid situation in Afghanistan has raised many concerns among the international community. A report by UN's consultants said the Taliban are threatening to kill or arrest family members if the wanted people do not give themselves up. But rejecting the assessment, Shaheen tweeted the Taliban have granted a general amnesty and are focused on the future. Meanwhile, the West is stepping up evacuation efforts after US President Joe Biden stuck to the August 31st pullout deadline. Britain said almost all its citizens without dual nationality had been evacuated from Afghanistan, whereas France says it is very probable that all its citizens and partners will be evacuated by Thursday. Moscow says it will airlift over 500 Russian and foreign citizens from Afghanistan. In another development, the World Bank has halted financial support to Afghanistan amid worries about the fate of women under Taliban rule.
And for more on this, we are joined by Ms. Amina Khan, expert on Afghan issue. Thank you very much for your time, Amina. With the situation at the Kabul airport getting more chaotic by the day, do you believe that the evacuation operation will be completed by the deadline?
Certainly from comments coming from both parties, that is the Taliban and the Americans, where the Taliban have said that they will not entertain an extension beyond August 31st. And similarly, I think there is pressure on the Biden administration to pull out by 31st, and they have said that they will do so because obviously the Taliban have said there will be consequences. So I think efforts are, underway 24/7 to get the remaining individuals out. So, one will have to wait and see, because the situation is not only, extremely complex, but it's very fluid at the same time. So one has to really wait and see how things pan out.
Okay, Amina, the Taliban are saying that they have not harassed or persecuted anyone, but people are using this as an opportunity to settle abroad for better opportunities. How plausible is that?
No, certainly. I mean, we've been hearing news from, Kabul that there've been announcements made that, free visas are being given and citizenship is being given and rush to the airport. And I think also, to be fair, I think there is this sense of concern amongst, the common Afghans, unfortunately, because of the way the Taliban ruled in the past. So there is that sense of fear. But I think as the Taliban, keep on assuring the masses that so far we have seen that, the transition of power, if you want to call it, has been relatively peaceful. So they are asking the masses to be, cautious, but there are a number of spoilers involved in this. And this, I think, exaggerated sense of panic is, being created by these certain spoilers to create chaos. And we've seen that, I think, at the Kabul airport. But I think the sooner this is done, we will be able to see in Afghanistan this push towards this inclusive transition setup, or this inclusive government that we keep on hearing about. And the Taliban have said they will only do this once all American forces withdraw. So I think it's difficult for the masses, but patience has to be exercised at this particular point. And again, these people that have been flown out, a lot of them are confined to hangars in different countries. We've seen videos coming out from Qatar as well. So I think the grass always looks greener on the other side, but I think it's just unfortunate. What can I say? The desperation, the level.
So, Russian President Vladimir Putin warned of possible terrorist and extremist elements among the refugees. Is that a xenophobic statement or a real concern?
No, I think it's a major concern, and I think it's something that resonates with Pakistan as well, because remember, we've hosted, a number of refugees, and currently we have about 3 million, and you cannot distinguish or differentiate between who comes and who doesn't go. So certainly, spoilers and undesirable elements will, of course, use that vacuum to create, havoc, and I think this is a serious concern. It might sound exaggerated to the international community, but honestly, I think the fact that the Taliban so far have been committed to not pushing towards the violent side. And if one attack does take place, it's going to affect the Taliban more than I think anybody else, because they're looking for that legitimacy and support they need. And one wrong move and, it will just come tumbling, down, particularly for the Taliban.
Amina Khan, thank you very much for your time, and we really appreciate that. And for more on this, we have with us now Sumaira Khan, our correspondent. She's updating us from Kabul.
I'm here visiting the area of Karte Mamareen. It is called the one of the oldest Kabul's parts, and you can call it Old City of Kabul. And it's little away from the activeness and from all the vibrantness and glitters and all that of what Kabul exactly holds. It's you can call it a village as well, because people here are really shy. Even the men and women, they are not really fond of speaking on camera, but I was able to speak to few in a shop, and few elderly who were right now after the prayers, they were just walking on the street, and they were having a jirga type chit chat with the fellow their friends, and the community club. You can call it a community club in modern words. They had a meeting right there, and they were not ready to speak on camera, but they did tell me that yes, we are kind of happy, we are satisfied now. The situation of security in this part of the ancient Kabul is coming to better now. Our kids are safe. Crime rate is gradually getting low, and we are really happy that in the name of extortion, there is no such demand from the business holders, from small shopkeepers, and they also were of the view that if there is announcement from the Talib quarters as well that they are forming government as soon as possible, this will be better for the interest, for safeguarding the interest of residents of Kabul, because we will be having a clear view that who is going to be our rulers, who are going to rule Kabul and Afghanistan. So the clarity should come as soon as possible. The residents also said that schools should be open because the kids are at home right now. It gives them a sense of insecurity. Once the schools are reopened, they are off to school again. This is going to be another step towards creating normalcy in Kabul. Reporting for Indus News, Sumaira Khan, Karte Mamareen, Kabul.
Sumera Khan, thank you for the updates from Kabul. And now moving on, Russia says it will not let its armed forces be drawn into an all-against-all conflict in Afghanistan. President Vladimir Putin made the remarks while addressing a Congress of the ruling party in Moscow. Putin said Russia had learned its lesson from participating in the previous Afghan war. He said Moscow is closely observing the situation in Afghanistan and is also actively cooperating with its allies. He also criticized the US and its allies for leaving Afghanistan in disorder that had raised potential threats for Russia. Putin noted the militias residing in the war-torn country might use the chaotic situation to try to expand into the neighboring states. Pakistan's Foreign Minister Shah Mahmood Qureshi has reaffirmed Pakistan's resolve to continue efforts for a stable Afghanistan. Qureshi, who is on a 3-day regional tour, made these remarks while meeting with his Uzbek counterpart Abdulaziz Kamilov. The two agreed to strengthen cooperation for political settlement in the war-torn country. Earlier, the Foreign Minister called on Tajik President Imam Ali Rahman in Dushanbe. In the meeting, Qureshi said all neighboring countries have a vital stake in the peace and stability of Afghanistan and the region. He highlighted the commonality of faith, shared history, and cultural affinities between Pakistan and Tajikistan. The Foreign Minister also met with his Tajik counterpart, Sirajuddin Mohdiddin. The two leaders exchanged views on deepening cooperation in diverse areas. Pakistan's President Arif Alvi has hailed the Army's unparalleled contributions towards internal and external security of the country. He said this while visiting the General Headquarters in Rawalpindi, where he discussed regional developments with Army Chief General Qamar Javed Bajwa. He also commended the Army's prowess in the field of information technology and coordination mechanisms with other services. The President was apprised on operational preparedness of the Pakistan Army. He also laid a floral wreath at the Martyrs Monument. Israeli forces martyred another Palestinian in the blockaded Gaza Strip. Palestinian health authorities said Osama Khalid Daij was shot during protests held by Gazans against the blockade of the Strip. Protesters also called for allowing the reconstruction of Gaza following the recent 11-day Israeli offensive on the coastal enclave. However, Israeli soldiers opened fire and wounded over 40 Palestinians, including 7 children. Palestinian factions in the Israeli blockaded enclave have called a new protest, while the Israeli army reinforced its Gaza division. Meanwhile, in the West Bank, Israeli forces have demolished a Palestinian home in the Al-Walaja village northwest of Bethlehem. They also bulldozed agricultural lands in Kisan village east of the city. In Hebron, the occupation troops abducted a young Palestinian man. Somalia's army says it has killed at least 90 Al-Shabaab terrorists in an airstrike in the central province of Galmudug. In a tweet, the army said the militants attempted to attack Amara town and suffered huge losses. Witnesses said terrorists stormed a military base in Amara. Al-Shabaab claimed it has recaptured the strategic town, but the military did not confirm that. The group added that it seized 14 cars and 10 gun-mounted pickup trucks. Amara lies on the route to the coastal town of Haradire, which is another Al-Shabaab stronghold. In Colombia, at least 12 people have been killed after an explosion in a mine in the central Boyacá province. Local officials say the underground shaft exploded as a result of a methane gas buildup. Rescuers are working to retrieve the bodies of the deceased. However, the collapse at the mine shaft is complicating efforts.
Unfortunately, it appears that they have lost their lives in this fatal accident. They still need to be located. The conditions in the mine where they are at this time, it's about 500 meters below the surface. As a result of the explosion, there was a collapse, according to reports I have received. The retrieval process for the bodies has been lengthy.
Now, Brazil has registered nearly 900 daily deaths from COVID-19 and close to 31,000 new cases. Globally, the fatality toll is over 4.4 million, while the caseload has exceeded 213 million. More in this report.
The deadliest strains of COVID-19, inequities in global vaccinations, and ever-stirring political controversies have made the end to the coronavirus pandemic further from the side. A study shows that Pfizer and Moderna vaccines' effectiveness dropped from 91% to 66% after the Delta variant became dominant. In Europe, Swiss authorities said the country is being hit by a fourth wave with a very worrying rise in infections. Greece has ended free testing for unvaccinated people to encourage them to get inoculated and head off any renewed spike in Delta cases. In the US, top infectious disease expert Dr. Anthony Fauci said the COVID-19 can be controlled by early next year if vaccinations ramp up. This comes as cases, deaths, and hospitalizations are rising in the US week after week.
Our 7-day average is about 137,000 cases per day. This represents an increase of nearly 12% from the prior 7-day average. The 7-day average of hospital admissions is about 11,000 per day, similar to the previous 7-day period. And 7-day average of daily deaths have also increased to 739 per day, an increase of 23% from the previous 7-day period.
In Australia, authorities said Sydney's COVID-19 cases rose to a new daily record, putting parts of the city's health system under severe pressure. Japan is also set to expand a state of emergency to 8 more prefectures, taking the total to 21 as a surge in infections overwhelms its hospitals. Meanwhile, China has urged the US to invite the World Health Organization experts to investigate the origins as soon as possible.
We have invited WHO experts to China twice for origins research. Together with their Chinese colleagues, they have compiled an authoritative joint report. We urge the US to stop the clumsy trick of shifting blames to smear China, disclose and test data of early cases at home as soon as possible, and invite WHO experts to conduct origins research in the US as to give the international community and the American people an explanation based on science and justice.
The World Health Organization said COVID-19 in India may be entering some kind of stage where there is a low or moderate level of transmission going on. Saudi Arabia has approved Sinovac and Sinopharm vaccines and lifted a direct entry ban on expats from 20 countries.
Pakistan has registered 141 deaths from COVID-19 overnight, the highest daily toll since May the 3rd. The health ministry says the death count has reached 25,220. It said almost 4,200 people tested positive for the virus overnight. The ministry said the positivity rate of overnight infections came at 6.83%. The caseload has now crossed 1,135,000, while over 1 million have recovered. The ministry says out of over 91,000 active cases, nearly 5,600 are in critical condition. Prime Minister Imran Khan has inaugurated the country's first smart forest by planting a sapling at a Rakh Jok forest. Addressing the ceremony in Shekhupura, Khan said the government is committed to protecting the environment for the next generations. He added that 5 billion trees have been planted in the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa province during the past 5 years. The Rakh Jok forest will be covering nearly 3,000 acres of land. It will be carried out in partnership with technology giant Huawei. More stories to follow right after a short break. Stay tuned. Welcome back. China says it strongly opposes the talks between the ruling parties of Japan and Taiwan. A foreign ministry spokesman said this in response to reports that Tokyo and New Taipei's ruling parties will hold security talks. Spokesman Wang Wenbin called on Japan to stop interfering in China's internal affairs and respect the One China policy. Earlier, an official of Tokyo's ruling party urged for a deeper dialogue on Taiwan. The dialogue between the party officials is a substitute for ministerial talks since Japan and Taiwan do not have diplomatic relations. Algeria has severed its diplomatic relations with the neighboring kingdom of Morocco. Foreign Minister Alamdar said Rabat has never stopped its hostile actions against Algiers. He said the cutting of diplomatic relations has come into effect, but the consulates in each country will remain open. At a news conference, Alamdar accused Morocco of using Pegasus spyware against its officials. He said Rabat supported a separatist group and failed in bilateral commitments, including on the Western Sahara issue. Meanwhile, Morocco expressed its regret over the unilateral decision taken by Algeria. Morocco's foreign ministry said it rejects the false and ridiculous excuses announced by Algeria. Morocco and Algeria have had strained relations for decades, mainly over the issue of Western Sahara. In the U.S., the Calder fire in Northern California continues to grow as the drought-stricken grasslands provide a potent fuel bed for its ignition. Authorities fear it might threaten the popular Lake Tahoe area. The blaze has been burning for 10 days now and has eaten up over 117,000 acres. It has also destroyed at least 455 homes, 11 businesses, and 166 minor structures. Officials say the fire has only been 9% contained, yet despite a massive effort from firefighters. They've declared it as the #1 priority in the country for fire resources. China has successfully launched a new communication technology experiment satellite. The satellite was launched from Xichang Center in southwest Sichuan province. The 386th mission for the Long March series carrier rockets followed the launch of 3 experimental satellites hours earlier. The Long March 3B carrier rocket is over 56 meters long and weighs 456 tons. It was developed by a division under China Aerospace Science and Technology Corporation. Rolling Stones drummer Charlie Watts has died at the age of 80. His publicist said he passed away in a London hospital without mentioning the cause of the death. Watts was respected worldwide for his muscular and swinging style of drumming. The jazz enthusiast had been a member of the renowned English rock band Rolling Stones since January 1963. He played the drums on all of the group's 30 albums on every tour. The news of his death comes 3 weeks after he pulled out of the band's upcoming US tour for health reasons. Another business updates. European markets are muted, tracking global sentiment as investors await a key meeting of the central bankers. FTSE in London, the Pan-European Stock 600 and CAC 40 in Paris all gained fractionally. Frankfurt's DAX and Italy's FTSE MIB dropped marginally. Earlier Asian markets also traded mixed, with bourses in mainland China, Seoul and Australia edging higher, while Hong Kong and Japan stocks declining. Another weather situation from around the globe. And that is all for now. The latest updates, you can follow us on social media at Indus.News.